So we'll go ahead and get started. This is Introduction to Explorer for ArcGIS. Welcome to our session. Thank you for spending this time with us. Hope you enjoyed the plenary and you're enjoying Dev Summit so far. I'm Scott Ball. I'm product manager for Explorer for ArcGIS. With me today is Brent Pierce. He's product owner for Explorer. So we're going to run you through what this thing is, and hopefully you'll find it interesting. Today we're going to be talking about these things. So take a look, see if this is interesting to you. We're going to be talking just very quickly about the ArcGIS platform overview, talk about how apps work with the platform, give you a little bit of an Explorer overview. What is this thing that you've attended a session for? We're going to be talking about some of the features of Explorer, like creating and using offline maps. We're going to be giving a demo of that. We're going to be talking about map markup and giving a demo of that as well. We're going to be showing you how to do deep linking with URL schemes so you can open another app from within Explorer. And then we're going to be talking about what's next, and if we have time left over, we'll get to a Q&A. So we'll let you ask questions if you have any. So let's go ahead and jump in right away with an ArcGIS platform overview. I'm assuming you probably already have seen this slide before. You probably know how this works, but want to start at the beginning. The cloud represents ArcGIS. That's ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Enterprise. And that is really foundational for the apps at Esri. So most, if not all, apps are built on this framework of your GIS content being in ArcGIS, whether it be online or enterprise. And so once your GIS content is there in enterprise or online, you can access it anywhere you are on any device that you have. We have field apps, we have business apps. You can share it out to social media, you can make story maps, you can make dashboards out of it. There's really no limit to what you can do once you have your data up there. You can write your own apps. Given that this is Dev Summit, that might make sense. So there's a lot that you can do once you get your content into ArcGIS. Talking about apps and why apps should be important to you and why apps might be important within your organization. And these might be bullet points that you can go back to your management and your organization and tell them why you need to expand further and why you might need to use more apps and make them more prevalent within your organization. So presumably, your organization has already leveraged ArcGIS. They've bought into WebGIS. They've purchased ArcGIS, and now you want to do more with it. And the way that you can do more with it is through apps. And so being able to go back and tell that story of, hey, you've already bought this thing. Why don't we make full use of it? We can do that with apps like Explorer, which are available at no additional cost. It just takes a little bit of training, a little bit of time to get it rolled out to people's devices. It's making the most out of that ArcGIS and WebGIS investment you've already put in on. It also has everybody in your organization working with the same information. So as a GIS person, you push it up into this ArcGIS system, and then you push it out across the organization. You might want people in your finance department, your accounting department, not just your GIS department, working off of the same information. And so apps are a great way to have everybody working off of that same source of the truth. From an analyst perspective, it's a way for a GIS analyst to share your work to other parts of the organization. Like I was just mentioning, if you want people in the finance or accounting department to use that single source of the truth, apps are a great way to do it because a lot of them are tailor-made and they're made to solve specific business workflows, and you don't have to be a full-blown GIS expert to be able to get into these apps. They're designed to be easy to use and solve problems for workers throughout your organization. It also elevates the level of the GIS analyst. When you become that subject matter expert and you create this content that people across the organization are relying on, that elevates your status within the company. That makes you indispensable. If everybody else throughout the organization relies on this data that you created, you become indispensable. So it's a way to really elevate the GIS analyst position within an organization as well. So let's see. Let's get into the app now. Let's talk about Explorer now that we've covered that kind of high-level overview stuff for the platform. Explorer is a great little app. It's a native app for iOS and Android, and it's a way to take that content that you've put up into ArcGIS and take it with you. Put it in your pocket, on your device, your Android phone, your iPhone, or your iPad. take it with you out into the field and have access to your GIS content wherever you are. And we've really designed it to be the best mobile map experience possible. That being said, it is a view-only app, and so that's also a nice benefit of the Explorer app. If you work with some other apps that allow you to get in there and edit your data inside your authoritative ArcGIS content, sometimes you might fat finger something out in the field. You might mess something up. You might give it to somebody who doesn't really know what they should be changing. They don't know the right protocols, and you don't really want them changing things out in the field. So in those situations, Explorer is a really great app because it's view only. You can make map notes, and you can do things like that, but you can't edit the underlying GIS information. It's just to take that data with you so you can access it on the go in the field. Two of the really important kind of pillars of Explorer for ArcGIS are the ability to access information while disconnected. So while you're on the go, we've all been in these areas where our cell phones don't have service, don't have coverage, and in those situations, you want to be able to have your GIS information on your device, not kind of looking for signal, looking for network. You want it on your device with you. So we allow you to take that information with you while you're disconnected. We also allow you to create and share map markup, because that's a really important thing. You might not be able to change the underlying GIS information, like let's say a pipeline number or critical information about the pipeline, but you might be in the field looking at a pipeline and say, hey, there's damage to this segment. I need to get that back to my people back in my GIS department. So you can make some notes on your device and get those notes back to the people in the office. So that's what we're talking about when we say you can create and share map markup. And that's a key feature of Explorer for ArcGIS. So thinking through who can use Explorer for ArcGIS, there are different capabilities exposed at different levels. And so if you're somebody that doesn't have a named user account, you don't have anything of the sort, you're just an anonymous user, downloaded the app from the Play Store, you can use Explorer for ArcGIS. You're going to be limited to publicly shared maps, but you can access publicly shared maps. So that's a great feature. If you want to think about how to apply that in your organization, let's say you're a National Park Service and you want to share trail maps, right? There are hundreds of thousands of people out there that might want to use those trail maps. You don't want to have to give all of them a named user account, right? So leveraging this anonymous user access would be very good for you. The next level that we want to talk about are level 1 named users. These are people who on the platform generally get view-only access to data. And so that goes really well with the Explorer for ArcGIS app because it's a view-only app. And so level 1 named users can view private data from ArcGIS. So let's say that certain people in your field ops department have access to certain projects. They're added to certain groups in ArcGIS. That security scheme will be honored when that level 1 named user signs into Explorer for ArcGIS. They'll see the maps that they're supposed to see. They'll see the groups that they're supposed to see. Same thing with level 2 named users, but level 2 named users get a little bit more access. When they create those map notes on their map, they get a little bit more capability. They can actually, because a level 2 named user has the capability to create content back on the platform, they can actually share that map markup back to the platform as a item on ArcGIS Online. So that's the benefit of being a level 2 named user and signing in to Explorer for ArcGIS. So that's kind of the capability breakdown by user level. And now we'll dive into the first major feature area of Explorer for ArcGIS, and that's creating and using offline maps. So you have a couple different options when creating maps that are intended to be taken offline for your users. The first, the one that's available today, is creating mobile map packages, or MMPKs, from ArcGIS Pro. So if you're in Pro, you can create a mobile map package, and then you can take that mobile map package and either publish it to ArcGIS, or you can sideload it onto a device. When you do that, it will require, I believe it will require a named user account to use that MMPK. But the great thing about it is once you get it on your device using Explorer, you can use it at any time. You don't need a network connection back to ArcGIS. So that's really handy for anybody that's going to be out in the field and needs a solid GIS infrastructure on their phone. So the next piece for offline mapping that's going to be coming pretty soon is what we call ad hoc or on demand. It's going to be the ability to, from your device, you pull up a web map from ArcGIS Online or Enterprise, and as you're getting ready to go out into the field, you think, oh no, I know that there's a bad network connection out there, I need to take it offline with me. So instead of having to go through that convoluted workflow of publishing, using Pro, getting it to online, or sideloading it onto my device, I can just from my device say, hey, I want that map, take it offline with me. It's going to be pretty handy stuff. We just did a holistic testing event with it last week. We have some things that we want to tweak, but it should be coming soon. It was really well received. We're really anxious for you guys to take a look and check it out. Again, this is important functionality for forestry and natural resources. Our customers in those areas live and die by the ability to take information offline and have it be reliable at all times. Fire and law enforcement, same way. And it's really for anybody that needs to take critical information and have it available to them all the time. So as I mentioned, an MMPK, when you publish it today in Pro, it requires that named user access to be able to use that MMPK on your device. In the example that I talked about earlier, where you might be a National Park Service, you want to distribute content freely to the public, that's going to require something called the publisher extension. And so how many people in the room are familiar with the publisher extension? Have you heard of it before? Excellent. So we're about to cover the basics of the publisher extension. What it allows you to do is take one of those MMPKs, and as you're publishing it, check a little box. Today, it's check a little box that says Enable Anonymous Access. And so if you purchase the publisher extension, it gives you the ability to do that, to enable anonymous access for those MMPKs that you create. In the past, like publisher extension is not a new thing. It's been around for a while. But in the past, it worked with ArcMap. It would allow you to create published map files, PMFs, and read those published map files in ArcReader. Going forward in ArcGIS Pro, the publisher extension will allow you to create anonymous mobile map packages that then can be used in Explorer for ArcGIS and any other apps that might take advantage of the functionality. So talking through the publisher extension, phase one, which is completed now, is simply allowing Pro users that are licensed with the publisher extension to create these anonymous Explorer-specific maps. It's in the, I think it's the Create Mobile Map Package tool.
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, it's in the Create Mobile Map Package tool in Pro. And like I said, it's the little checkbox that says Enable Anonymous Access. They're reworking the experience right now. And soon you will be able to use the Create Mobile Map tool in the Pro ribbon. And there are going to be some new capabilities there. And over time, there are going to be more capabilities. And some of those capabilities that we've heard are things like being able to encrypt that mobile map package, being able to time out that mobile map package. So think about this scenario where you might have a contractor working with you, and you want to be able to give them an MMPK of the data. They don't need to be able to sign in. You don't want to give them access to your ArcGIS account necessarily, but you want to be able to give them the GIS assets that they need to do their job. But you don't want it to go on forever. You don't want them to have them into infinity. You want to be able to expire those either at the end of the contract or at the end of a certain period of time. And so when we implement this data timeout capability, that will allow you to do just that. Being able to password protect MMPKs, that's another requirement that we've heard for this capability. So you might not want them to have a named user account, but you can give them a password instead that they can unlock the MMPK and start using that functionality. There's a lot of stuff that we have planned, that we have coming for Publisher. Today, it's really about just making your MMPKs anonymous so that you can give them out to whoever you want without requiring a license. So that leads us to our first demo. Hey, Brent, you want to show us some basic offline capabilities?
I can. All right. Hopefully that's somewhat viewable from the back. I don't know, give me a thumbs up if it's not, but you'll have to move yourselves because I'm not going to move the screen if it's not viewable. So, like Scott mentioned, one of the big the big pushes for Explore in our last releases was the ability to take your data offline. So what you're looking at here is the 18.1 version of Explorer we just released a couple weeks ago. But it was really a minor improvement on what was already there. So you have the browse view, but in that now we have groups. And then in this browse view, I can see all the maps that have been shared with me. And they're grouped into categories that make sense to me. So I see what current map I have open on the device. I also see which maps I've brought down to the device, I've downloaded to the device, versus maps that are just in my favorites, versus maps that I have shared with me. So I can see everything, and I can hone this down with a filter. But the first thing I'd want to show is how to get one of these mobile map packages Scott been talking about onto my device. So I'm just going to kick off a download by tapping on that cloud button, and you'll notice that this shows up in my on-device section as soon as I tap it, and I can wait for that to finish. But I won't bore you with that. I've already downloaded a mobile map package I'd like to show you, so I'm going to jump right into that. So typically, what a user does if they have a lot of maps is maybe search for it first, and this will filter it down, and notice it filters it kind of on the fly. So I'm going to tap on my current map, which is an MMPK of the Palm Springs area. So it has all my operational layers as well as some vector tiles, and as I zoom in, the scale dependencies kick in. It's pretty standard stuff, but I can go completely offline now, so let me just throw it into airplane mode. And I can use this completely offline since it's an MMPK that's on my device. Now, even though I'm in airplane mode, the GPS still works, and this is a piece of functionality we added to the latest Explorer. Is we noticed that the GPS tool is actually one of the most popular tools, and the reason being, at least we summarized, was people want to know where they are. So if you tap on the GPS, it's now floating over the map as a featured action button. And when you tap on it the first time, what it does is it centers on your current location. So if I was to pan away from that, tap again, it'll center on your current location. Now, when you're centered on your current location, if you were to tap again, it puts the map in what I call compass mode. So as I'm changing the orientation, you see the map spinning around. So this is a nice way to kind of orient yourself. Now, tapping again, it'll put the map north up and also center on my current location. So there's some hidden functionality within that GPS tool at the latest releases of Explorer. Another big thing that a lot of people asked for was the ability to search for your features while offline. So in that mobile map package, I also have a bunch of features that have been packaged up and included in there. So my assets, I can search on those just by pulling up the search tool. And I have a search term in my paste queue, and then searching on that will give you kind of what you'd expect. It would actually search on a specific feature and find it on the map. And again, I'm in airplane mode, so this is all completely offline. What's also there is the ability to tap on features and get their pop-up. So here when I tap on another parcel feature and slide this panel up to the top, I get, depending on how that pop-up was authored and created in ArcGIS Pro or in the web map, I get the custom view that I need to see in the field. So here I'm seeing the details, the attributes that are important to me, but not just the details, but if I scroll down, we also have related tables. So here we have related records. So when I tap on this, it pulls up all the records related to this parcel feature. So that was another really important feature for many people, was the ability to traverse these relationships, but also do it in an offline way. So you don't contact a server and do it in the form of a mobile map package. Let me cancel out of that and go back to the original feature I tapped on. And then as I scroll down the pop-up, you'll also see a couple actions. So I can get directions using any app, and in this case I'm offline, so I could actually use Navigator. So I could get directions, since I have Navigator installed on this device, I can get directions right to that feature I have selected. But I can also use Apple or Google Maps if that's more conducive to my workflow. So you have some options here. Going through the other actions, a new feature that we added in the last release was the compass mode. And what's interesting about this is we wanted a lightweight way for people to find their features in the field. So, features might not be visually available to you. It might be buried, it might be behind something, but you're in the field, you can tap compass, and what it does is it pulls the map into what's called compass mode. So you see as I move around, and I'm getting a little bit bouncing around because I'm indoors, but you also see the direction, the bearing to that actual parcel, but you actually see the distance, and this will update as you're moving around. So this was a big field feature that's going to be prevalent in all our apps, not just Explorer. So it actually throws the device into what's called compass mode. And then finally, let me go back to the map and back to the pop-up, and I can also add this feature directly to my places. Now, we also added media support. So here in the pop-ups, graphs and charts were created for this pop-up, so that's also available to me completely offline. And finally, there were attachments included with this feature. So here I have the attachments, which have also been incorporated into the mobile map package, and those are available to me offline. So you can, very common attachment would be a picture, and that's available to me, but also a little more interesting would be a video. So this is a flyover of the actual convention center itself, and it's actually showing up pretty small there. But the idea being that whatever file you can attach to the feature, it can also be included in the mobile map package and then taken offline with the rest of the data. The question was, is that a geodatabase attachment or something else? It's a good question. It is a geodatabase attachment. So if you have attachments associated with a feature in the geodatabase or also even in the web map itself via a feature service, it'll also pull those down when you create the mobile map package. It's done in the kind of publishing process. It's a good time maybe to stop for a couple quick questions. Yep. Question, sorry? Label support. Yep, labels are supported. Let me try to give you a quick demo of that. Let me close this pop-up. So if I notice when I'm zooming in, labels kind of pop on in and on because those have a scale dependency to them. So if you have labels in the features, those are definitely supported, and those will come on depending on how you author the map. Yeah, question in the front?
It seemed like label conflict detection wasn't quite supported fully. Is there plans to implement that?
Yeah, no, another good question. Question was in regards to label conflict detection and its support in the future. Yeah, we did have some issues with the actual conflict detection, and we're working on those now. So we've made some big improvements to that in the 18.1.1 release, which we'll probably release sometime between now and the user conference. Yeah, we're working really heavily on making sure the conflict detection will be there and match what your expectations are. Yeah, question in the back. Oh, very good question, and that wasn't a plant, but the answer is there will be, and hopefully if I can stop talking so much, we will be showing it at the end of this presentation or at the end of the demo. So yeah, it'll be available in our next big release, the 18.1.1 release, and what's that? The question was what's platform? Both. We're going to do 18.1.1 and iOS relatively soon. Android will be a little later, but eventually they'll both Android and iOS platforms.
And then related to that, is there a pro or con between the MMPK versus the TPK?
Well, so the question was pro and cons between MMPKs and TPKs. They're kind of two different things. So our TPK support is you embed the TPK in the MMPK itself. So the MMPK is the file structure. Optionally, you can, if you have your own aerial imagery or something like that in the form of TPK, you can just publish that into the MMPK. So the answer is yes. So yeah, that's my offline demo. As you can see, the key thrust was just to really make taking a map offline easy and provide all the functionality you're used to well connected. Just provide that in the exact same way when you're offline. One more question. Yeah.
Can the MMPK creation process be scripted, or does it have to be within Pro?
That's a good question. So the question was, can it be scripted, or does it have to be done directly through the UI in Pro? It can be scripted. So essentially, the MMPK process just relies on a number of geoprocessing tools, namely the Create Mobile Map package and the Share tool. So you can certainly script those together, and we do have some samples of that as well. So a lot of people are scripting it, so every time their data changes, they just run that script in the background, and it goes. Yeah, question in the side there. Sorry, I can't hear from the back. Vector tiles, yeah. What you're seeing here is a implementation that supports vector tiling, but yeah, all our offline capabilities support vector tiling. Question was, does it support vector tiles? Yeah, question.
When you publish an update, does it take, is it just update the data that was changed, or does it update, re-download the whole package?
Right now, so the question was when the actual underlying mobile map package, and I'm just repeating just in case it's being recorded. The question was, when you update the mobile map package, does it download the whole thing or does it do the deltas? Right now, it's pretty simplistic, and it knows it's changed, and you can actually, let me jump into it, you can actually check for updates. So here I'll check for updates, and if it was, oh yeah, I'm in airplane mode, so it's not going to work so well. But let me jump out of airplane mode, and hopefully, moral of the story is never demo on the fly. It's like a cardinal sin when it comes to demos. But you can check for updates, and then if there was changes, it'll pull the whole thing down. Now we are working on a solution we'll just pull down the deltas in kind of a one-way sync. So that'll be coming in our 18.2 release, hopefully by the UC timeframe. So if you just updated one layer and a couple features in that, it'll be really quick and won't pull everything down. All right. Let's jump back into the slides and get to it.
Cool. Good questions. Thank you all. So the next thing we want to talk about is map markup, being able to actually take those notes while you're out in the field. So talking through markup, you can make annotations on your device, as mentioned. You can drop a point. You can draw an area. You can add notes to those things. You can give them titles. And those things are persistent on your device. They stay there on your device. So if you find yourself upon a gate, you have to call somebody to find out what the gate code is, and you want to take that note on your device. The next time you come up to that gate, you can just pull up your map, and it'll be there for you. So that's what we mean when we say markup and annotations are persistent. So ArcGIS users, as mentioned before, level 2 named users can actually take these things and share them with a group or share them back to their org. That's not going to be accessible to level 1 named users because they don't have the ability to write things to their organization. And this also supports redlining workflows. This is major. This is a big piece of functionality for utility customers. As I mentioned before, people going out looking at pipelines, people looking at gas lines, looking for electric meters. This has been a really cool and critical app for them. Being able to go out, let's say for the electric meter example, we've had people tell us that they've gone out to a property and they've seen on their official authoritative GIS information coming from ArcGIS that the meter is supposed to be at this place, but while in the field they saw that it wasn't back by the doghouse, it was actually right next to the house. So they're able to make a note really quick, say, hey, GIS person, the meter wasn't actually where our authoritative information says it is, it's actually over here. And they're able to make those notes and share it back with their team back in the office so that they can actually get that meter moved in their authoritative GIS info. Again, similar kinds of use cases for public works folks, and really anybody who need to communicate information without directly editing that operational data, just need to make notes about it. So the first usage pattern, okay, we've got a question?
Will that record the GPS location of where the meter got moved to, for example? Or?
Yeah, you're essentially dropping a pin right on the map, and so that does have GPS information with it.
Yep, that's correct.
Yep. So the first pattern, I've been talking about this level 1 named user person that can't actually share it back to ArcGIS Online. So how do they actually share this thing? If they make a note and they want to get it out to people, because that's a pretty important workflow. We do have the ability to take a screenshot within the app. When you go into share your notes, you'll get the option, if you're a level 2 named user, to share it on ArcGIS Online or share as an image. And the level 1 named user has that ability to essentially take a snapshot of their screen and then use whatever sharing mechanism they would like to, email, SMS, a file sharing service. They can upload that image file there and share their notes that way. So that's what's available to level 1 named users. For level 2 named users, as I mentioned, they have a little bit more functionality available to them. They have the sharing of the image thing, if that's something that they want to do kind of quick and dirty on the fly, just get some information out right away. But they also have that ability to share to online or enterprise. And once it's out on online or enterprise, it is a feature collection. Is that right?
Well, it's an actual markup item, which behind it is using the feature collection spec.
Yep. So it's a markup item in ArcGIS, and that can be consumed by Pro or any web client that's out there that supports reading markup.
Yep.
Yep. So let's go back to a demo. Let's see what that looks like.
Sure. All right. So for when we were first starting to think about markup and what we wanted to support, we really focused on two real key workflows. The first one being personal markup. So what we were seeing is a lot of people had their paper map books, they're in the truck, and they're making notes on it, like where the entry to the property is and bad sections of the road and things that need to be moved. And they'd take this paper map book, bring it back to the office, tear it up, give it to their GIS tech. So that was one workflow. And they were complaining that, hey, every time I get a new map book, I have to put all my annotations on it. I'm losing some of my data. So that was one of the first use cases, was we wanted to support this concept of personal markup, my own notes that I'm making on top of my own maps. The second was a lightweight way to communicate stuff like edits that need to be made in the GIS. So a lot of these field techs don't have editing rights. They might be contractors. They might not even know how the structure of the data to edit it properly, but they want to send some contextual information to the back office. So what they were doing is, again, marking it up on paper and giving it to the GIS tech when they get back into the office. So we wanted to support that workflow as well. So we tried to hit those two key points with markup. So to go into markup mode here, I just tap on that little pencil in the toolbar, and I'm now in markup mode. So anything I do within the map will create a markup. So say this hydrant, I want to move it further down the line. If I tap on the map, long press on the device, it'll actually drop what's called a marker. And this is the simplest type of markup. It's just a point. It has GPS information, but that's pretty much it. If I was tap on the arrow, I can add an arrow to this to point at something. So here I want to communicate that, I want to move that hydrant maybe a little further down the line because I'm making some observations in the field and the actual GIS data is out of date. So to do so, I'll open the marker, slide this panel up, and I can add a label to this. So here I'm going to say move, pretty simple. And I can also add notes, but I'll do that for my next markup element that I wanted to show. So that's probably the simplest form of markup, is just a point. I can throw an arrow on it. I can change some colors if I want to. We wanted to keep this very simple because, again, we're competing with pencil and paper. So we had to make it very simple. So the next thing is a polygon. So if I was to just, drag a line around, I can kind of outline an area that I see, and maybe I've noticed some damage in the field. But it's pretty hard to get this exactly right with your finger, obviously, in these devices. So I can pick this up and move it around. So here I've noticed some damage. So again, I'll go in, I'll add a new label here. I'll say that label is damage. And again, I want to add some more notes, and these notes will stick with that markup element. So just some contextual notes I'm noticing from the field. So I'll paste this in. And just something for my back-end GIS techs or whoever I share this markup with, I want them to have a little bit more information. So again, notes, added a label to it, and I can quickly pick it up and move it around. We also wanted to make it really simple to edit features or edit markup directly from the field. So we had some gesture recognition behavior built into the tool. So if I was to create a squiggly line here, I can change its color, say to green, and then again, it notices that, hey, were you trying to create a straight line? So I can change that to a straightened geometry or do that back to the squiggly line here. And then I can also add an arrowhead, and let me just try to tap on that again, pick it up, and I can move that around wherever I want to. The shape recognition also works for, and I'm doing that a lot, also works for shapes like squares or rectangles. So we wanted to make this really simple, something you could quickly mark up from the field. So once I've created the markup, all's well and good, but now I have to share it. So the first thing I want to do is share it with my back office GIS folks. So tapping on the tool in the bottom right corner here, it'll bring up what's called a share sheet. But first I have to decide, do I want to share just a screen grab? Screen grab's fine, a picture is fine here, or do I want to share the notes and everything else that's associated with that markup? So I'll choose share markup to do that, and then I choose exactly how I want to share that. And you'll notice this is a common iOS, what's called a share sheet, but in the bottom row here, I have an option to share it with ArcGIS Online. And since I'm connected as my named user, it knows what org I'm connected to, and I can just give that a custom name. I can share it with everybody in my org, or I could share it just with a specific group. So here I want to share it with my network maintenance group and save it. And what this will do is go and save that markup as a markup item in ArcGIS Online. Now my GIS techs will see that, and they'll pull that directly into Pro or into a web map viewer while they're making the edits. And they're the ones that are kind of trained and qualified to actually make these edits. But it's a quick way for me to communicate with them. So that's the first flow, is to be able to share it with them. But I can also share it with other field workers that I might be working with in the field. So here I'm going to share it again as markup. And instead of using ArcGIS Online, you'll notice the top row, I can airdrop that markup file directly to another device that it sees within the airdrop, or I can message it over, but you'll see that it'll pull it directly into Explorer. So I'll get you, this is a 2-person demo here, I'll get you to change over, this is 5, so I'll get you to change over to 5 in, let's see, yeah, go for it. Let's see if the network's going to behave itself here. Drum roll, please. No, you know what? Let me try that again. There we go. All right. So what it's done is it's used Apple's AirDrop technology to share that markup file over to this device because it notices it's on the same network. And then when it comes in, I'll just tap OK. It knows that I created it, and then it'll pull those markups into Explorer running on this iPad. So this is a nice way to share from device to device, maybe some observations you've made directly in the field. So really that's markup. 2 key workflows, either personal markup, yeah, I'll grab that after I go through my preamble here. The 2 quick workflows are personal markup and then also the ability to share either with other field workers or with the back office. And you have a question? That last part is level 1. Yeah, you can do that as level 1.
Can you map label your labels that you were typing in? Because you said like damage area or move, right, is the label of the markup, but I'm not seeing that displayed on the map.
Oh, okay. So the question is what happens to the actual labels? So you'll see the marker elements have the first character of that label. But the polygons itself, we're trying to get some feedback as to whether we should come out as labels within the polygon or how that would work. So maybe we can talk after this to see what your actual work needs are, and then we could improve the process a little bit.
But you can tap in and see it, right?
Yeah, you can definitely tap in. So what device am I on right now? So yeah, if I were to tap this guy, you'll see the damage right there. Yeah, we're just not labeling it right on the map. We just kind of want to keep it a little simpler and not cluster it up. Yeah. Yeah, the question is, what's that?
I was just going to say, I kind of see an issue with that if people are using you're actually doing different maps.
Right. Yeah, the question was, is the markup really tied to a map or is it not? So if I had a different map open in my iPad, what it'll do is it'll just overlay that markup on top of that map, not on top of the specific map. Yeah, it's intentionally not tied to any map. It's just tied to obviously the location where it was created. Yeah.
How do you envision your GIS back office user taking that markup and understand the context of it?
Well, typically the context is what we're seeing anyways is field workers, use very few maps. They're just working on that one utility map, and the context would kind of be inferred from the map it comes from. And it's not, even though it's not tied to a map, they know it came in from Bruce, and Bruce only has access to the secondary and primary circuits map, and so he must be talking about this hydrant here. Yeah, if you want to get more, I would say fine-grained control of editing, that Collector or Survey 123 are really good options for you, because then they're actually editing a specific feature, and then the context is obviously maintained there. Yeah. What's that? Yeah, well, this Scott, who's a developer that worked on it from the back, also mentioned that right now, I didn't show this in my demo, but it's really a layer that sits on top of the map. But you can create multiple layers and edit those markups in specific layers if you want to get a little more contextual there as well. Yeah, we had a question right there. Yeah.
Offline as well,
Yeah, so the question was offline, does it work for Markup? And it does. Yeah, it works offline or online. Obviously, if I was offline, I wouldn't be able to share it with the back office, but I can, AirDrop works and stuff like that, so I can.
What's the service that it's, what's the service that's running Markup?
It's not a service, it's actually an item in ArcGIS Online. So the question was, what is the service that Markup's writing to? So it's really just an item that's using, very similar to what, if you're familiar with feature collections, it's similar specification to that. So it's just an item, and its payload is really a kind of fancy feature collection.
And it's like just the server is enterprise?
It works with, yeah, the question is, does it work with enterprise as well? And the answer is, yeah, it works with enterprise, it works with online. I would have to get back to you on that. Yeah, I'll have to get back to you. Yeah, let me look that up, but maybe drop your business card and I can get that answer for you pretty soon. Yeah, question in the back.
When you share a markup, does it share with visible on your screen or whatever markups you have?
It shares the markups that are in that particular layer. So in this case, since I was only editing in one layer or adding markups to one layer, it'll share that layer specifically. If you want to get more control over that, you'd use multiple layers and create that. All right.
Okay. And now on to probably the most devy thing that we have in our presentation today.
Oh, yes.
Deep linking with URL schemes. How many people are familiar with deep linking URL schemes? A handful. Few. Yeah. So it's pretty simple. It sounds more complicated than it is. A URL scheme is really just being able to pass information from one app to the other. That's it. Being able to invoke something from one app and have another app do something else. It's pretty common. You probably use it almost every day. The example given here is your contacts app on your phone. You can tap on the contact, give them a call, which will open up the dialer app, and it will dial the person that you were just looking at. That is essentially a URL scheme, being able to pass information from one app to the other. So we enable that here at Esri. We allow you to do things between apps. A lot of times, the methodology will vary by platform, whether it's iOS or Android, etc. There might be different ways to do it natively, like between those contact and the dialer apps. Luckily, we've standardized our URL scheme for all platforms, so it works across all platforms with all of our apps. So you can develop something, put it into a web map, have a link in a pop-up, and it will fire off no matter which device you are on, as long as there is a native app for that device that you're working on. So simply, this is kind of what it looks like. You have the beginning, which tells you what app you want to fire off. Second, you pass in the argument that you want to pass to that second app. Examples down there at the bottom are things like we want to open Explorer, and we want to pass in this item ID. So we want to open Explorer, and we want to go to this particular item ID and load that. For the bottom example, we want to open our ArcGIS Navigator right here, and we have an address that we want to pass in. So we want to be able to navigate to this particular address. So it's pretty handy being able to, let's say, start from Explorer. You're out in the field, you're using compass mode, and you say, okay, now I want to be able to collect something using collector, or I want to open survey 123 and take some survey information about this thing that I've got to using Explorer. That is what deep linking is all about and what it's for. So you may want to take a picture of this screen, or you may at least want to just note down this link down here at the bottom. These are the things that you can pass in. These are the supported arguments that are used by Explorer. If leave that up for just a second, I see some people taking pictures. All right, all good. I'm not going to run through all of those in detail, but Brent is going to show you how it works here in just a second. That second is right now.
Yeah, if you just jump back to the last, so that link at the bottom is just a GitHub repository that has, in the README, it has a bunch of all these parameters documented, and then there's some code samples about how to get it up and running, either with URL schemes in your own apps or just how to form URL schemes if you wanted to create links out of them.
Yep. So you want to show us how it works?
Sure.
Sweet.
Let's jump over. So what I have here is kind of a mock-up of, we've been working a little bit with the National Park Service and the folks at Shenandoah National Park to use URL schemes. And what they're interested in is having a way for their users of the park to be able to download offline maps really simply. So this is a mock-up of what it could look like, and here it's just a mock-up of the Shenandoah site. And let me zoom in a little bit. If I tap this open in Explorer, what it'll do is it'll actually open a mobile map package. So I've gone ahead and downloaded that mobile map package to save a little bit of time, but if I hadn't, it would start downloading for me. After it's finished, it would jump right into the map. But since I already have it on my device, it just knows to open that mobile map package. And this is a really detailed mobile map package for maybe hikers or visitors to the park to start working with that subject matter directly on the device. So that's the first example. The second example, let me jump out to the camera app, is since it's just a URL, well, our users are starting to do some creative things with it. They're not just embedding it within a website, they're actually putting URL schemes behind QR codes. So make it a really easy way just to launch Explorer within their device or their device browser. So let me see what's going to happen here. Didn't like that too much. Let me try that one more time. But you know what we're hearing is, and this works also for Collector, it works for Navigator, like Scott mentioned. But what it's doing is it's just using that QR code. Oh, permission issue. All right. Well, maybe it's not gonna work for me today. But you saw the URL scheme come up when I opened the camera app. So the camera app on iOS, it notices that it's Explorer, and what I have here is an item ID behind that QR code. So when I opened it, I'm signed in as the wrong user here. So it's going to try to open that map. It finally worked for me. So it's really an easy way to get users up and running quickly so they open the right app, and they don't even need a named user account. So as long as those maps are publicly shared, they can just scan it with a QR code scanner or with a camera app if they're using iOS 11, and it'll pop Explorer open with the right map. So it's really just reducing that friction to get up and running with the correct map, so you could take it with you in the field or use it online. Yeah, question right here.
Example where it was a URL link.
Yep.
What if the person clicking it didn't have Explorer already loaded or downloaded? Would it then prompt them to download the app and then run the tile package or the app?
That's a good question. So what happens when you tap on a URL scheme but you don't actually have the receiving app downloaded? It depends by platform, but we don't, right now it won't prompt you to download. We're trying to work on ways to do that, like with a third-party service, but we don't quite have that dialed right now. On iOS, what it'll do is it'll recognize the fact that you don't have the actual calling app or the app receiving app actually installed, so it won't look like a tappable URL per se. On Android, Scott, maybe you can chime in on that. Do you know what happens when you have a URL scheme but you don't actually have the app installed? Yeah, it'll just give you an error message on the Android side of things. Other questions about URL schemes? Yep.
What about the reverse? So if there's a call to open Explorer, can you get any URL information from Explorer? I know that you can open Navigator, but like if you're in Explorer and want to open Collector, open Service, is there support for that?
There is. So the question was, what if you want to launch other apps from an app like Explorer? So when I was showing you the pop-up and jumping into like Navigator or Google or Apple, we're just using URL schemes there. But you can also, I think Scott mentioned this in his slides, you can also put the URL schemes directly in a pop-up configuration. So a lot of our customers, users do that. So they'll put specific Explorer or Collector or Workforce URLs directly in the pop-up, and then those will show up as tappable URLs in the pop-up for a feature. That's a good question. Other questions? No? Oh.
You sent me an email earlier. I'm Aaron Johnson with Ring Utility.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
So what we're trying to do is we want to utilize Explorer to really come from to go to an actual asset on the item we're trying to use. So we have the search functionality, but what if we have a map that has 10 layers embedded in it? Some of those attributes are shared within the layers.
Uh-huh.
So we were thinking, what we'd like to see happen is you can specify a particular layer to search on and the attribute that you want to search. That's really what we would like to be able to do.
Okay.
And we'd like to be able to, with that, if it finds just one match, to highlight that particular
Yeah, no, that's good. Right now, so we added, as you know, the search parameter, which is, you could just put in the search string, and it's a way to kick off search, just for everyone else in the room, because I know you know this already. But the request is, so you could put in a search parameter, and it'll actually execute that search and select that specific feature if there's only one result returned. But the enhancement, and this is a good one, is to be able to specify the specific layer there. It just does a broad search right now on the map. But yeah, we can definitely consider adding that for a future release. Yeah,
And then,
thanks for that.
if that does get added, is there a way for me to get some idea of which release it might be included in?
There is, but not right now. Yeah, I'd have to talk with the team. I mean, it's not a huge feature for us to add, but we could probably sneak it into the 18.2. But my project manager is kind of looking at me right now and giving me the evil eye. So, but no, it's a really good feature, is to be a little more specific there, and we're always kind of evolving that specification and evolving the functionality, because it's very specific to workflows. So if you're following it, even just the Navigator Explorer URL scheme over time, it's definitely keeps evolving. It's nice that it's in Git, because we can just add new things to README and stuff like that. But
Just so you know,
that makes sense.
What we have developed our own in-house app.
Yep.
We like this product a lot, so we really just want to stop working on that.
Okay.
And just move to this.
Yeah, well, let's definitely.
And that one bit of functionality will allow us to.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's collaborate over the. I didn't see if you got back to me on email, but. Yeah. No, it's perfect. It's perfect. But yeah, I'd love to collaborate on that, because we can. That's a nice enhancement.
I think there was one other question.
I just wanted to do something. I've done this sort of deep linking between collector and survey 123, where you're passing fields back and forth, passing fields in survey 123, and you can do that from here also, right?
Sorry.
If I can pass attributes.
Attributes. Yeah.
Into survey 123 from Explorer also.
You can, yep. You would have to do it in a similar way that I explained earlier, in the sense that you would just configure the pop-up to pass the attributes. But yeah, really, at that point, Explorer is kind of hands-off on it. So if you configure the pop-up, so the question was how to pass attributes into an app like Collector or Survey 123 directly from Explorer. So you'd configure the app, the pop-up in such a way to pass attributes kind of dynamically based on the selected feature. There's ways to do that, and Explorer is pretty hands-off at that point. It just says, hey, there's a tappable thing on here. I'm going to let you tap it and do whatever the platform does when you tap on it.
Just gonna ask, is there any extensibility to put your own plugin, so instead of waiting for you to develop something, a custom app or widget?
Right.
Could be added in?
Right. No. So the question was extensibility model for Explorer. The only extensibility we have right now is, and this is kind of lowercase e extensibility, would be the URL scheme itself. So we don't have a model where you could plug in your own code into your deployment of Explorer. But I'd be definitely interested in hearing your needs there, because we're always talking about it and what we need to do in that front. So.
We've got about 7 minutes, so let's jump back in and
Okay.
get through this thing. Do you have any more?
No.
Okay.
No.
Sweet.
I thought you were going to let me demo the TPK stuff, but maybe let's do this, and then maybe if we have time, I can do the TPK stuff.
Yep, we're closing in on it. I think we'll have time. So what's coming next? In the green box, those are things that we've fixed recently. We've done things like adding groups in Browse. We brought back the magnifier. We've improved the URL scheme stuff that we were just talking about. That's had some improvements recently. And we've had tons of bug fixes. Coming soon, we talked about the ad hoc offline functionality, being able to, from the app, take a portion of your web map offline with you. Being able to do offline imagery support, that's something we mentioned earlier, that's going to be coming very soon. We're also going to be improving search capabilities and doing some UX refinements. And then going beyond, some of those MMPK enhancements that I was talking about associated with the publisher workflows, being able to do pre-planned offline workflows. I haven't talked about those much, but that's kind of a blend between being able to take something offline directly from your device and setting it up back in the office, like the MMPK publication workflow. It's going to be something that's going to really be a function of ArcGIS Online. People are going to be able to set up certain predefined areas on web maps and define those as pre-planned offline areas, and you can configure the scale dependencies and all that stuff for those areas. And then once those have been configured and set up, devices and apps like Explorer will be able to see those, and you'll be able to say, okay, my GIS guy back in the office set up these 4 areas to be able to take them offline easily. I can pick from those in my app and say, I want this 4th area, and it just downloads the latest version to your device, and you have easy, ready-to-use offline maps. So that's going to be something that's coming. It's dependent on some work that's being done on ArcGIS Online. And also, we're starting to think about 3D and when we actually start supporting 3D in Explorer. So that's beyond. So let's say we've got 5 minutes left. I think we can do this in 5 minutes. What do you think?
I'll be quick, I promise.
Okay, let's do it. This is important stuff. This is that ad hoc offline that I was talking about, being able to take your map offline from the app. Brent's going to show that to you real quick.
Well, I was going to show the TPK first, and then I'll go jump into ad hoc offline. So the first thing is this is a mobile map package with a TPK in it. So I had a question earlier about that. Just wanted to show it. It will be coming in the 18.1.1 release, which should be in the next month, I would imagine. So here I have a mobile map package. It has vector tiles in it, a really nice detailed map when I zoom in, but you'll notice these 2 areas. This is the TPK. So if your organization had gathered maybe nice aerial imagery for your service area, well, this is available to me offline. So I'm in airplane mode, no connection right now, but I can view these rasters, this imagery offline with obviously my operational layers overlaid on top of this. So this has been a big request. Can I just take my imagery offline and use it in the field? Well, that'll be coming at 18.1.1. The next thing, and I'll just jump back out of airplane mode, is the ad hoc offline workflow. So let me open this map. It's a map of our campus. Wait for that to load up. In Redlands, as I zoom in, you get nice features, stuff like that. But say I wanted to take it offline. I'll go back to the maps, the map screen, and here I tap on the little accessory, the little ellipse next to it, and I can add an offline area. Once I'm in this screen, I can determine what extent I want to add, take offline. So if I'm only concerned with that, or if I want to take the whole campus, I can define the extent. I can also do so using a bookmark. So my bookmarks are available to me. This is the headquarter building in Redlands. If I want to just take that offline, I just tap download area. And then there, my download starts, and it pulls that section, that area of the map directly offline from a web map. So that's a quick demo of what's coming in 18.2. We're in development, obviously, right now on it. But this is also a big feature for our users, is multiple ways of taking stuff offline. You can pull a map package down and download that, or you could take an area offline directly from the field from the device.
Yeah. Cool. Just going to jump back in real quick. Just a few things that I want to pass along. As I think we mentioned earlier, 18.1 was released for iOS a few weeks ago. Explorer for ArcGIS on Android is currently in progress. Our 18.1 release is in progress. We're working on it. We do have some betas out there if you want to join the betas and kind of see the latest beta stuff that we have out there. Join our GeoNet community, which is down here at the bottom if you want to take a picture of this slide. That's how you can get in with the latest betas. Whenever we announce new iOS betas, that's also going to be where those iOS betas will show up. So join that beta community around Explorer, and you'll be able to see the latest stuff that we're working on. Next is our main Explorer GeoNet site. This is not about betas. This is just about our general released products. So if you want to get in touch with our engineers, get in touch with us, this is a really great place to do it. We have people monitoring this all the time. We have a pretty good community asking questions. We can get back to you relatively quickly. This is a great place to stay in touch with the team. And finally, we've got 2 minutes. We've been taking questions all along the way, so hopefully we've answered a lot of stuff that you've had questions about. But if you have any remaining questions, now would be a great time.
When you download from the map, will you only be able to do one download from the map, or can you do multiple downloads from the map?
That's a good question. So the question was, when you download from the map, can you do multiple or just one area? So you can have as many areas as you want from the map. The one big caveat with our UX right now is that you could take multiple areas, but the web map itself won't be accessible when you have areas offline. So we're thinking you either pull one or many areas offline, work with them, and then delete them, and then go back to the web map, but we don't have an experience where both will be accessible at the same time. So kind of either you're online or you're offline.
When you set up an area for download, how much size, how much space that's
Yeah, good question. So a question about whether it tells you how big the actual the size of the MMPK will be or the package will be when you take it offline. We will do a rough estimation and provide that for you, but it's really just our estimation. I mean, that's mostly based on the tile size. We can't estimate the feature size until we actually create the package itself. So we'll have some indication, but it will be an estimation at best.
Yeah. And so we have time for one more question. I saw that one back there. Repeat the question, I couldn't hear. Google authentication for signing in, will that be supported?
The Google authentication, you mean using your Gmail account? Yeah. Yeah, I believe we're working on that, Scott. I mean, I thought that was working already. Was it not? Google Plus, yeah, okay. So we support Google Plus, but you're saying using the Google Authenticator, or are you? Yeah, okay, so the Google Plus button is working in the latest beta, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. All right, I think we're at our time, maybe a minute over. Thank you so much for spending
Yes, thank you very
this
much.
hour with us. Thanks a lot for coming by.